Hello everyone, my name is RagingRaptor and I welcome you to a new review, because today we are going to have a look at the E65 Zwilling. The Zwilling, I don't know, sibling, I guess it is in German. And the thing about this tank is, it is in a collaboration with the people from Wolfenstein. Now, I sadly didn't ever play this series. I know it exists and I really wanted to play it because they look like a lot of fun shooters. And I do have a lot of knowledge when it comes to shooters. And knowing what the things are they are doing, it could work pretty damn well with World of Tanks. But in the end today, we are not focusing on the battle pass because I don't even know if the Zwilling will be for free or through the pay progression of the battle pass. We didn't got the information, nor do we know how it looks. We just had a little bit of teasers. The thing is though, gameplay wise, that thing is a German Caernarvon. Yes, the turret is not as strong as the Caernarvon, but it is basically similarly strong, and it is a lot of fun to play. The thing is about the Zwilling, it slams you with good gun handling, double gun, but we get to that, 280 alpha, which is low for tier 8, but it's workable, trust me, it is workable. Really good gun handling, again the opportunity to do a double shot with 560 alpha, and if you don't do that, you have the opportunity to do a follow-up shot in 1.5 seconds, which is funnily enough the exact same time as you need to ready up your shot to do the double. The thing is though, I believe when I was trying to do the double, I don't think it really worked that well for me, because on one hand you need to prepare. Yes, it's just 1.5 seconds, it's not that long, but it doesn't have the mechanic of the Vulkadov nor the SFAC where you get better accuracy, although it doesn't really need it. The thing is though, if you do that, you might also miss one shot or maybe even two, and then you need to wait 3 seconds because that's the lock time of the gun, and then you can start reloading again. So if you do the double shot, you basically need to wait almost 10 seconds for your next shot to be ready to do 280 damage. If you decide to just constantly shoot on reload, you don't have that. Yes, you have the first quick burst, 1.5 seconds, bang, and then you have the normal reload, but it feels much more convenient, and suddenly your DPM is pushing really hard. You have 2500 DPM after all, so you can do a lot of damage in very quick succession. And the good thing is, because it is a double barrel gun, there is no need for a rammer, because there is none. So you take HP turbo stabilizer. And that makes the already good gun handling even better. I didn't play it with any fancy equipment like with Bond or Bounty or experimental equipment, just box standard equipment, and it felt so nice to shoot and play. The thing is though, the Zwilling has a little bit of an issue, and that is that the penetration rates are a little bit lackluster if we have to be completely honest. The base AP has 221 pen, which is pretty decent, and it's AP, but it's just 88mm thick, meaning you cannot overmatch 90mm armor plates. So for example, if there is a Stridswan S1 in front of you, you will have issues penetrating him. And on the other hand, your premium round is APCR with 273mm of penetration. While it's better, and it's also better than 20mm than the Caernarvon, it just feels still lackluster, and you will have issues actually penetrating yourself. We'll get to that a little bit later. Overall though, the gun feels really nice to shoot and play with. I had a lot of fun doing it, and during my gameplay with it felt really good. Yes, you don't have 10 degrees of gun depression, you only have 9, but it's also very fitting for a German tank to have 9 meters of degrees of gun depression. God. But the thing is, like, I don't know, boys, I don't know. These are not the issues. The mobility, which is our next point, is not the issues either. It goes 38 kph top. It goes 15 kph in reverse, and has good HP per ton ratio and a 1000 horsepower engine. With the armor, you can actually do quite a lot of ramming damage with this thing against similar heavies, because you are heavy, you are fast, and you have a lot of horsepower and a lot of frontal armor. So for ramming, it's actually not that bad either. But now let's have a look at the armor model, because this is where you might think, holy, that sounds very, very spicy. This is against your shot. And you can see the turret is red. And the cupola is very, very, very tiny. Speaking of the cupola, if you quickly go in here, you can see it is deceptive. You might think, oh, this appears part of the cupola, but no, 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 no. These are the viewports. The actual cupola thing is, if we zoom all the way in, is this little strip here. This strip here is the actual cupola. And if we go back to the Firefoxington, you can see that's the cupola weak spot. That is nasty. That is very, very nasty. I noticed so many enemies struggling penetrating the turret because they're like, where's the cupola? Like, obviously, it might just be they are unknowledgeable because they never played against the tank. That's one point. But that cupola is tiny. It's even tinier than the Caernarvon Action X's cupola. And the turret is 270mm thick. Yes, the hole, you can see it can start getting penetrated frontally, and we don't talk about side scraping because then you have this massive weak spot here. But if you can hide that, you can do pretty decent chunk of side scraping. You can see even the turret is very nicely angled, so you can do things with that. But then you will get this weak spot over here, the eyes, which is like also on the Tiger 2, E75, these are also weak spots. With premium rounds, actually, you can see the turret starts to become a little bit easier to penetrate. It just has 270mm of effective armor, meaning with your penetration on the premium round, you are fairly close to have a 50-50 chance of penetrating. The hole starts to become very easy to pen. But if we go into our 9 degrees of gun depression, you will now notice that the armor becomes again a lot thicker and the cupola is still very, very tiny. But you will start getting these weak spots over here, so keep that in mind. The cheeks do be easy to penetrate. And if you have anything which is bigger than 90mm, you can also try to penetrate here underneath the hole because it's just 30mm thick. So against tier 8s, the armor profile is pretty solid. Let's compare it now against like the Amex M4, and I will take the 120mm gun, because the 120mm gun, as you can see with AP, pretty easy to penetrate the hole, the turret stays the same. And now if I play premium rounds, and let's be honest, 300mm of penetration on a tier 9 tank is normal, you can see it suddenly becomes incredibly easy to penetrate. So you definitely shouldn't peek against tier 9s. And this is what I mean down here, the 30mm plate. You can see it can be penetrated at quite an easy angle. And yeah, against tier 9s, your turret will definitely not really hold up. Only if they hit the guns, then you might bounce something. And you can't even turn the turret, because then they will also penetrate this. But as soon as I start shooting AP rounds again, you can see that it will be fine. The funny thing is, that definitely feels a little bit like the conundrum with Wargaming's balancing when it comes to armor. Against standard rounds, it's very strong. But if you make it also strong against premium rounds, you have a type 5 problem. And this thing has a very tiny cupola, so it would be tier for tier stronger than a type 5. If they would give it more armor on the hull and the turret. So they couldn't do that against similar tiered or same tiered opponents, right? So let's take, for example, this little fella here. And now he struggles, because look, he only has 252mm of pen, so he can't penetrate the turret front. And if we take it, for example, the Caernarvon, which I showed you previously or talked about previously, same issue. It has very low premium pen, so he can only go for the cupola, meaning he will have an issue. But if you take something which has a bit more pen, I don't know if the Contriever has more pen, we can quickly check that out. No, he doesn't, so he also has the issue. I think the E75 TS should have more pen. Yeah, 282, and suddenly you can see, oh, the threshold is lit, and bada bam, bada boom, you don't have an issue or a very minor issue penetrating the tank from the front. Yeah, it feels a little bit weird. It really does, because it feels like the E65 Zwilling is great at punishing enemy heavy tanks, but it struggles as soon as it faces anything which actually has more than 300mm of pen. And then you can't even do anything, because your whole tank becomes green, which is a little bit of a pity. And I know the Su-130 PM is a mean example, but through the bond shop there's so many of them around, so yeah, they will easily cheese you through the turret. So yeah, that is the Zwilling. It also has a pretty decent crew layout. It's The same as with the E100 and the mouse. And as far as I'm aware, the Taschenratte. So that is a-okay. It's a good crew trainer. Like, it is a solid tank. And I really had fun playing with it. But I also had really fun playing with it because the enemies I faced were A, usually below me because I was able to use the gun depression and was able to hide my turret and my hole. And B, I didn't face high pen TDs really, or high pen heavy tanks. But as soon as I faced them, I melted like butter. Oder Butter, how we would say in German. So yeah, that is the E65 Zwilling. I hope the review was wonderful for you. Let me know in the comment section below. My name is RagingRaptor and I see you around. Cheers, my guys.